How's the day been, Alex?
Yeah, not so bad. How are you?
Yeah, all good, all good.
I didn't see any attendees yet. Right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this new webinar. Let me first share the screen and we'll wait for everyone to join us. Let's just wait for a couple of seconds while everyone is getting on board, and then we'll start. How are you guys doing? Let me know if you can hear us well, if you can see us well. We'll be starting in about 20 seconds.
Please share any comments or questions in the chat as well. Great to get the feedback.
By the way, let's enable the chat so they can actually use the chat. So now you should be able to use chat as well. See Q&A. Hey, all good, guys. Thank you so much. All right, I think we can start from here. I see that more and more people are joining. First of all, thank you so much for joining today's webinar. We're happy to announce a new topic, which is called an SME Guide to Managing Global Payments in 2024. And let's start first with our introductions. My name is Alex Kesselman. I'm a solutions engineer here at ApprovalMax. And today with me, I have James Scobie from AirWallex. James, over to you to talk a bit more about yourself and your role in the business.
Yeah, afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. As Alex said, James from AirWallex. I've been with the partnerships team for the last 2 years. And my role primarily is working with accountants in the UK and across Europe, looking to promote AirWallex as a solution for clients that are expanding internationally or looking at a better way to manage payments globally.
Awesome. It's great having you here. So let's start talking about the agenda for today's session. We'll start with a short introduction to ApprovalMax, following by introduction to AirWallex. So you will know a little bit about what we're actually offering, what is our platform is all about. And then we'll dive into the main topic for today's discussion. So what are the main issues finance teams are currently facing when preparing for global payments? Once we'll establish what are the main challenges and issues, we can then talk about the actual solution. And that's when we'll introduce you to payments with AirWallex in ApprovalMax integration. Then we'll dive into the actual demo of the product. We'll see the way it works from the very beginning when we'll just receive our bills. How would we then approve them? How would we create a batch? And then how we'll proceed with the actual payment using AirWallex platform. Then at the very end, we'll have Q&A section where we'll try to answer all of your questions. Though I would highly encourage you to ask any questions along the way. You have chat section or Q&A section of Zoom. Therefore, we have our support team here in the background, which can help us with answering some of these questions. And also we will cover some of those at the end of the session. Now let's dive into the actual presentation, to the actual topic of today's discussion. And I'll start with first a little poll, just to understand a bit more about the audience here and just let us know what are the major pain points when you're considering global payments. We'll keep it for 1 minute. Let us know what is your opinion. All right, we start receiving our first answers. It seems like majority having issues handling multiple currencies and very unclear charges and exchange rates, well, which is very good, well, from one side, because that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. And that's where we try to provide you with the solution, how we can deal with that. All right, so the poll is ended. Let me stop sharing the poll and we can dive into the main topic of today's discussion. And let's start with a short introduction to our platforms. I will start first with ApprovalMax. And if you're not yet know about ApprovalMax, we're a #1 platform for robust financial controls and fraud prevention. We've been working globally since 2017, and we're present in both Australia, New Zealand, Europe, US, and Canada, and we're working with more than 10,000 customers globally. At the same time, we are tightly integrated with accounting platforms like Xero, QuickBooks Online, Oracle NetSuite, and Scene7 Core. So if you're working with one of these accounting platforms, we can support your financial control system. However, let me elaborate a bit more about what we're actually doing here. if we'll think about the businesses, and we'll see that everyone pretty much needs the financial controls in their day-to-day life, because without the financial controls, it becomes a chaos. You really cannot control your cash flow. You really cannot control whenever you need to pay your suppliers, and it simply becomes not efficient. So some customers, some clients, they decide to work with paper. I'm saying hi from the dinosaur age, which is probably not the best option in 2023, whenever we're trying to go paperless and we want to be effective as possible. So some going further and start using emails, which is also not the very best option, because you need to keep track whatever been approved versus not. You need to send all of these multiple notifications to everyone from your team. You need to keep track if you actually received an approval decision, so you can now make a payment, see the coding, and some additional challenges. And that's where ApprovalMax steps into the game. Our main goal is to completely eradicate any need for email or paper-based approval systems. The way we're doing that is by creating unified and streamlined multi-step and multi-tiered approval workflows. Let this phrase not confuse you. A workflow that is nothing more than just a sequence of approval steps where each and every of your decision makers will know exactly what they need to approve based on the rules that you provided to them. Once we build this unified platform for all of our users, it becomes so much more convenient and so much more effective to make their approval decisions, because they can make their approvals on the go by using our mobile app. It is available for both iOS and Android. They can make their approvals through our email notifications or by simply logging into their account. They will find everything that is awaiting their approval within just one work frame. It also shields some sensitive information from your accounting platform. None of your users should have access to your accounting platform in the first place. So they can fully operate just within ApprovalMax account, and you can control what type of things they allow to see and what type of things they allow to approve. And then from the third side, if you are an accountant or a bookkeeper and you need to have transparency of the full process, ApprovalMax gives you opportunity to see through the audit trails and through the audit reports who exactly made these approval decisions, why they've made it, and when they've made it. So just to give you a bit of a statistics to emphasize the words that I've just said, we keep track on how our customers are actually working with the platform, and we see a vast increase in their effectiveness. So you can save up to 10 business days by reducing this error-prone and manual routine task when you need to send all of these multiple notifications to your users. Once this platform is built, you can just lay back. Whenever you receive an invoice, it will be automatically routed to the correct person. So accounts payable process efficiency is also increased by the 50%, while approval times can be cut up to the 85% time. And I actually have a story for that. And also it can reduce the error by 80%. That is in the nutshell, on a theoretical side, what is ApprovalMax. Later throughout the demo, I will show you the way it works. But now I would like to give a mic over to James to talk about Airwallex.
Perfect. Thanks, Alex. So to begin with, thought I would just share this slide here, which sets our mission or our modus operandi up, which is to build the best financial infrastructure to allow businesses to scale globally. So for some background, the business started 8 years ago in Australia, primarily as an FX conversion tool to manage currencies and send funds internationally. And since then, it's now evolved into an end-to-end banking platform, allowing businesses to seamlessly expand internationally in order to collect, manage, and spend across multiple currencies through our suite of banking products. So if we jump to the next slide to touch on some of our key stats. You can see here we're now 1,400 staff dotted around all major markets around the world. In the UK, we've got an office in London and also across Europe, Amsterdam and Lithuania. What really sets us apart from competitors in the payment space is our licenses that we have. So governed by the FCA in the UK via an EMI license, and that's also replicated in up to 60 other countries around the world. Similarly, across the licenses, the banking partnerships that we've built over the last 8 years is something that is really hard to replicate quickly. These are long-term partnerships that are actually providing our bank accounts, the payment rails, the FX, Visa and MasterCard, as you see there. So these are probably what stands us apart and enables us to onboard clients all around the world. And as you can see, some of the tier one investors that have been able to support us along the journey, and some of the larger enterprise clients that we support as well. If you jump to the next slide. So to touch on the actual product and what it is that clients come to us for, best to consider us in three parts that you see here. So get paid, treasury management, and also payouts. So on the get paid function, this is being able to actually receive funds coming into Airwallex. We have our own online payments business or merchant acquiring, typically aligned with e-commerce or SaaS businesses that are collecting client funds via credit cards and debit cards. We've got also partnerships with Shopify, Magento, so the larger shopping platforms to actually use us as a plugin on the Shopify website. Once funds come into Airwallex, we have our bank accounts or global accounts that we set up on behalf of clients. This is clients will use us for global accounts as the primary way that they're expanding into new markets. So, especially in the UK, actually getting a bank account can be quite challenging. Same goes with the US and Australia. So being able to seamlessly open up accounts and have a presence in new markets is certainly one of the more powerful products that we have. The treasury management or the wallets that we provide. This is where you're able to manage multiple currencies that a business is dealing with. You see all the different flags here. Also being able to convert funds between your wallet. So the business, as it earlier, started as primarily an FX tool, so being able to convert these currencies. When you're comparing against the traditional players, we are offering much more of a cost-effective or a solution that is far more better from a price perspective. But also, clients are able to come into the platform and on a self-serve basis be able to convert funds whenever they need, wherever they're running their business as well. And then the third pillar is payouts. So this is particularly pointed for this conversation because this is what we have integrated with ApprovalMax, which is being able to, for existing ApprovalMax clients, being able to add payout capabilities to that software. So being able to use the local payment methods around the world. So for those from the UK, you'd be familiar with the faster payment network. We've got the equivalent faster payment network in up to 90 other countries around the world. So you've got SEPA across the Euro. And where we don't have local payment methods, we always can fall back on the SWIFT network, which is probably what people would be more familiar with when sending money internationally. Finally, we've also got borderless cards. So there's a lot that we do in the payment space. This also allows us to just focus on domestic clients. So being able to spin up either virtual cards or physical cards for businesses that are out and about spending company funds. So look, in summary, it really touches off a number of different products that a business needs when they're managing cash flow, managing expansion. Clients day-old startups will use us for bank accounts right up until enterprise clients like Qantas and Xero using us. But a really great example is actually ApprovalMax. They are a client of us. How this partnership started probably 18 months ago now. Came on board as a business, perfect example of a scaling tech business that has a presence in multiple countries around the world, collecting funds, converting funds, making payments to suppliers, employees, and even Alex's goes on borderless card, being able to spend company funds and see clients. So it's probably where the genesis of where this partnership started, and happy to say still a happy customer.
That is absolutely true. I'm using one of your cards myself, and now we actually ordered the physical card whenever we go to the US to use it over there as well.
Yeah.
So really enjoying that all across the world.
Excellent. Good to hear.
But now, after all of these welcoming words and about what our platforms are actually all about, let's talk about the main topic of today's discussion. So what are the issues finance teams are facing when they're preparing for global payments in 2024? And from the top of my head, I can straight away say whenever we're having more and more departments and we have more and more workers working remotely, it becomes really hard to scale that kind of a thing. Because whenever your business is growing, your challenges are also growing with the business. So having unified and streamlined platform in a way where you can manage all of your staff, providing with specific rules on what they are actually allowed to see, that would be something for business, especially for the growing business, to consider. On top of that, whenever we need to pay to our suppliers, especially when we need to pay overseas, and especially we have a growing and or bigger business, it becomes really a huge problem because we need to convert all of our base currency money into the currency of that recipient, and we need to send money, so we can lose lots of money for the actual transaction side. So these are two things that I can just say out loud straight away. But James, if you can add something on it.
Yeah, so to touch on the point number 3, setting up in global markets, I think it's probably fair to say that domestic high street banks, your traditional banks, are set up for straightforward domestic businesses. As soon as you add an international element to it, whether it's other currencies or foreign directors, it can become really challenging to actually just open up a current account to receive money. So that is certainly a problem that Airwallex looks to solve. So being able to seamlessly open up new accounts. But then the other point to raise is that you want to find a solution that is, works across a number of different currencies. It's great to have bank accounts in other countries, but if you've got 10 different accounts with 10 different passwords, with different teams not having access, that can become a real pain point for finance teams. And then to couple that with the world of FX and fees, if you've got different solutions, even in across the UK, you may have 5 or 6 different banks, all charge FX differently, all have different fees. Add 2 or 3 different other countries to that, and it can become a headache pretty quickly. So being able to have a solution that actually you're confident in the process, you're confident in the fees that it's charging, creates a much happier finance team. And then finally, just touching on the FX trap, or being able to how to set up the currency accounts. Touched on for international businesses setting up in the UK, bank account can become pretty challenging. But then when you are adding the FX element to that, and especially around businesses that are accepting credit card payments, so online payments, e-commerce stores, there's the FX trap. So it's all well and good to be able to sell into new markets, UK, Europe being a really easy example. But quite often, if you don't have the right infrastructure behind the online payments, being able to accept euros is one thing, but if you don't have the bank account that it's going to get deposited back into, those online payments businesses will convert it back to the UK. So you're potentially missing out on the margin there. But then to add another, where the trap becomes more evident, is if you've got payments going out in euros, then you're going to have to convert from GBP back to euro again. So I suppose that's just one way to highlight how FX can become a problem for these businesses expanding internationally. And it just comes back to the what we're talking about is having the right infrastructure set up from day one.
Right, and that's actually one of the issues we had internally here in ApprovalMax, because though we are a service provider, but we are also surprisingly also a business, and we need to pay our staff globally, and we need to pay to our suppliers globally. And one of the things that we've kind of stuck with was how to pay to all of these suppliers and not pay all of these transactional fees, and not to pay all of these FX fees. That's why we made this partnership with Airwallex, and later we'll decide to scale it up, so all of our customers will actually also find these benefits from these integration. Speaking of which, let's talk about the joint solution that we've made with Airwallex. So later, though, I will show you the way it works, but just to show you a scheme on how it's actually processed within these two platforms. Everything starts whenever we receive a supplier invoice. It goes through your multi-step and multi-tiered approval workflows, where everyone will receive their notifications. They can check all the relevant data, compare that to their budgets, maybe do the bill to purchase order matching. And once the bill is approved, we can now create a batch out of it. So the client can take all of these approved bills and create a batch, providing where exactly they would like to send that to, selecting the correct beneficiary, amount they want to pay, and then submit it for the actual payment. And payment, though it's being processed on the Airwallex side, you can actually do the whole thing just from ApprovalMax. There is no need for you to leave ApprovalMax, so you can make full process end-to-end within ApprovalMax itself. You can provide access either to your customer who will be making the payment. You can provide access to your accounting firm who will be making payment on your behalf without having any access to Airwallex. And once this payment is made, we will first of all receive the status back to ApprovalMax, and at the same time, it will be reflected in your accounting platform in Xero. So then you can reconcile that over in your Xero account. That is, in general, the way it works. But now, what's the major benefits of using this integration? So when you're expanding globally and when your team is growing, you can add them in one system, and that will be your single source of truth, where you can decide who exactly will be approving all of these payments. You can decide that based on the bank account. So your, let's say, Australian team might be making payments within the Australian dollars. Your UK team will be doing that in British pounds, and so on. So now you can separate and make the delegation of authority depending on the different parameters. On top of that, in case you want to see what exactly is happening within your account, just from your ApprovalMax account, for each and every transaction that you're making, we'll be generating an audit report showing you who exactly made the decision, when they've made it, and why they've made it in the first place.
Yeah, I suppose to touch on some of the other aspects of the integration, to call out, every client needs to be a client of ApprovalMax and also Airwallex. As Alex said, you can certainly keep the whole experience, the whole payment process with just logging on to ApprovalMax, but there just needs to be funds in the Airwallex account for it to work. And I think the main benefits of having this integration is that it scales with businesses as they are growing themselves. So when you're in the UK, you're making GBP payments, it's pretty straightforward. When you have the odd euro payment that comes through, there's no need to open up new accounts. There's no need to find new solutions. Airwallex and this solution will grow with teams as they scale. Because yeah, coming back to that, a couple of points earlier, there's nothing worse than having different systems across different teams, and having the one solution really helps to streamline things. Touching on the forget about hidden fees as well. It's very transparent in terms of the local payments. There's no cost. So when you're making a GBP to GBP payment, there's no cost. When you are making a euro payment from your euro wallet, again, there's no cost. So all local payments are free. It's only when there's that conversion that there would be a charge, which is 0.5 above interbank rates. So it's very much a low-cost solution for businesses. And the other aspect, point number 3 there, setting up in new markets, businesses are actually able to set up the bank accounts to receive the funds as well. So it can be used as a system where it's just payouts and you can top it up from your existing bank account. But to really get the most effective use of Airwallex, you're able to actually create the bank accounts, send them out to clients to receive funds. And again, you're just looking to maximize the potential of Airwallex and by using the one platform. And along the fee line, there's no cost to actually collect currency coming into the wallet. It's only really the conversions where we charge clients.
Perfect, great stuff. Now let's dive into the actual product and see the way it works in action. So let me know if you can see my ApprovalMax account now. You can.
Yeah.
Awesome. So in case you've never seen the way ApprovalMax works and you're just wondering what does it looks like and what we're allowed to do here, ApprovalMax will give you an access to all kind of different workflows for different financial documents. Today we'll be mainly focusing on the bill workflow and Airwallex batch payment workflow. So you will see how the process looks from the very beginning all the way to the actual payment. But in general words, these workflows is nothing more than just a canvas of your organizational structure, where we can build different checkpoints. Imagine like in the airport, if you have a small airport, you just need maybe 2 steps checkpoint. But if you have larger airport, you might need to have several different security checkpoints. That is exactly what you will see here within the workflow. If we'll take a look inside, we'll notice here that I have 2 approval steps, where at first, all of my incoming bills should be checked by the relevant head of departments. If I'll take a look inside of my approval matrix, you will notice that each column here represents different data point from your accounting platform. So if you have a list of your suppliers, you can create a workflow based on these suppliers. So for instance, all the bills from ApprovalMax should go to Allison, and all the bills from Coffee and Cakes should go to me for my approval. Same goes for chart of your accounts, items, If you're using tracking categories, you will find both of these tracking categories here, and you can build your workflow based on that information. So you pretty much have limitless possibilities how you can build your approval workflow. On top of that, whenever you have maybe bills with the higher amounts, you might want to have 2 or 3 approval step process. And ApprovalMax allows you to create workflow of pretty much any complexity. Just click on the plus sign, it creates an approval step for you. You can drag it whenever you need to. You can give it a name, let's say legal department, and then add as many users as you wish. None of these users that you're seeing here should have access to 0 in the first place. We can take a list of everyone from your team. It might be 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people. Your price won't change in that case. And you can simply add them all in bulk in your account, and you can decide what exactly they can see. Now, once we build the workflow, we'll simply activate that. And whenever we receive an invoice, let's say we'll put that into 0 under awaiting approval state, or if we're using Dext, we can just submit it from Dext into ApprovalMax. Everyone who is involved in the approval process, they will have one simple screen, both on mobile and here in the browser. It's called My Decision Required. Everything that is awaiting your approval will be shown to you here. And the data on the right side of the screen will include all the essential information for you to make your approval decision. It will show you the name of the bill, which supplier it came from, total amounts. You can see all of your line items here. In case you've got any attachments, you'll be able to see those attachments either in side-by-side mode or in a full screen mode to have all the essential information to make your approval decisions on time. Moreover, if you have your purchase order raised previously, you can match them against the purchase order and really keep track over your expenditure. However, once we'll approve our bills, let's say I'll approve both of these. Now, everything is sorted. These bills are now synced back to my 0 account under awaiting payment state. And you can also find them here within your main menu under the approved bills. Once our bill is approved, we will be able to create a batch out of these approved bills. For that, we'll have an additional workflow now, which is called the Airwallex batch payment workflow. And the process here will look quite the same. You have a left side of the screen, that's where people are listed who is allowed to raise our batches. Again, you can have as many users as you wish. You can define what type of information they're allowed to use based on the bank account, based on the supplier, or if you would like to allow them to create new beneficiaries. Right side of the screen, that's where we're creating our approval steps, but also we have an additional step here, which is called send payment via Airwallex. So the person who is listed here, first of all, he or that person should have 2-factor authentication active, and that person doesn't really need to have access to Airwallex in the first place. So you can make all of your payments here within ApprovalMax once you've established a connection. Once you've created your account, you just simply click on Create New Request. You will find your Airwallex batch payment. Select which bills you would like to add into your batch. Let's say these last 2 from coffee and cakes. You can, of course, use one of these filters or many of these filters. That's up to you. And once we've created a batch, we can now provide where these bills should be sent. So out of the list of beneficiaries, you just select which one you would like to use. Let's say GBP local. Provide what should be the source currency. By default, it will be used the one that you have a base currency in your account, but of course you can change that. Let's say it will be in euro. Your payment reference will be taken from your bills automatically. You just need to select what should be the purpose of the transaction, select what should be the 0 bank account, and it will take it from the source currency. In case you want to check if the details on the actual invoice are correct and if they correspond to what you have here on the beneficiary, you will be able to enable your attachment and enable a side-by-side view, and then just check your beneficiary against the request you're seeing here, making sure that you're actually paying to the correct person, to the correct supplier. Once it's all done, you just simply submit it for approval. At the moment, it just stays here within ApprovalMax. It will go to the person who is allowed to approve the batch. Once we'll check all the details, we'll approve it, and now we will find the new button will appear for us, which is Pay with Airwallex. Since I'm added as the payer for that request, I can click on Pay with Airwallex. It will show me available balance. I can confirm the payment, and I will need to provide a 2-factor authentication code. Which one is that?
And that's something that we need to set up from our side. So being able to log into Airwallex from ApprovalMax. And then the currency wallet bank accounts that Alex were referencing, they're the accounts that we set up for you as well.
All right. So now once I've sent this payment, it will be automatically transferred to Airwallex. These details will be processed and Airwallex will send the payments. And once the payment is done, we will receive a status. So we have a couple of different statuses. It might be approved and the payment was made. If the payment is failed, we'll receive the status into ApprovalMax. So you have full understanding of what is going on for each and every transaction. And once you'll refresh the page, these line items that I have here, the bill to coffee and cakes 001 and 002, they will be processed separately. So we might have two different statuses. One is approved for the first one, the other one might be failed for the second one, for one or another reason. We'll also have links that will lead us to our Airwallex account. And there we can check our status in case we have access to our Airwallex account. Just log into that. All right. So now it will take me to the same request that I've just sent for approval, sent for payment, and it will expose the information about the actual transaction. So we can see what's the status per each and every transaction, where it came from, who is the payer, who is the recipient, and we have a timeline of what is actually going on. So right now it's being processed. Once the request is processed, we will receive it back to our ApprovalMax account. And also this payment will be sent to your Zero organization. So then you can make a reconciliation. That is in the nutshell.
Just on that, sorry, Alex, I was going to say on the Zero integration, that happens on an hourly basis. So the various bank feeds that you set up will constantly be updating with Zero. And so all payments will be recorded and reconciled.
Yeah, that's a great note. Thank you for that. And of course, per each and every transaction that you're making, both when you're approving bills or when you're making the actual payment, you will receive an audit report provided to you, which shows you who exactly made the decision, why they've made it, and when they've made it. So within that audit report, you will see under approval log who made the decision, and you have all of your bills provided to here. So you will have access to both of these audit reports here in ApprovalMax and also in Zero. So you can then reference that whenever you need to provide some details to your auditors or just prepare for the end of the financial year. Now, coming back to our presentation, I would like to ask another poll just to understand about your preferences if you would like to learn a bit more about both of these platforms. So then we can contact you directly and maybe do a one-on-one demo to show you the way it works in a bit more details. I'll leave a poll for 1 minute and let us know your opinion on that. All right. And I see we've got first couple of questions. Thank you so much for that. We'll be answering your questions very, very soon.
Nice.
Okay, so the poll is ended. Now we can, first of all, let's talk about some of the free trial programs that you can try both Airwallex and ApprovalMax. We offer you a 14 days free trial, so you can play around with all of these different workflows. And if you wish to sign up with Airwallex, feel free to take a look at first of all airwallex.com and then contact James so he can give you a bit more information about the way platform works and start this onboarding process. Same goes for ApprovalMax. We'll be able to onboard you and show you the way it works from both sides, making sure that it's all working for your business. With that being said, first of all, thank you so much for attending the webinar. And now we're coming to the last part, which is the questions and answers. Let me know if you have any questions outstanding. C. Lee's asking, when will ApprovalMax Premium with batch payments be available for year-based customers using Zero? Currently, we have it implemented for a UK-based multi-site business, but would like to expand the reach. That's a very good question, but it's mainly on the legal side. So technically, everything is ready. Just recently, we released our AirWallex integration for Australian market. So it might be just a matter of time or some legal things whenever it will be possible to expand it furthermore to some additional markets, European markets.
Yeah, so the integration across Europe, across the UK launched in probably the last 6 months, Alex. I know that we're in the final stages of Australia, so being able to connect accounts in Australia, and then the next logical step would be Europe. So I'd suggest it would be not too far away.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Mm. Can you explain the need to select beneficiary bank account for each payment? If this is the bank account for the supplier, is it not possible to have an automatic association of the supplier and their bank account? That's
So
yeah.
I was just say, Alex, where you are selecting the contact or the beneficiary on ApprovalMax, that's picking up the contact from AirWallex. So if you've got a saved contact in AirWallex, you'll be able to select that straight away. And if there is no contact in AirWallex already, then it would need to be entered. There is a restriction in terms of actually pulling bank account details or beneficiary details from zero. But where there is no contact, it needs to be entered on ApprovalMax, or you can enter it in AirWallex first, and then it will pull the contact across.
Perfect. I see that it's actually answering 2 of these questions. So the danger is wrong beneficiary bank account. So don't be worried about that. If you have the contact already in AirWallex, it will be pulled into ApprovalMax automatically.
Yeah, and then Alex, there was a recent update where the beneficiary bank details can't be changed on ApprovalMax. So that was released, I think, in the last month or so.
What system is the primary source of truth for suppliers and their details? If we're talking about the banking detail, that would be AirWallex in that case, because we will pull the information from AirWallex about all of your beneficiaries. If we're talking about just the contacts or just suppliers, so it might be both Xero and AirWallex, because we pretty much ApprovalMax in that sense just goes on top of Xero, expanding these approval capabilities. So we're bringing data from both of these platforms. So it's not that we can create something on ApprovalMax and it won't be reflected in neither of these systems.
Yeah. And then to where a contact is entered in ApprovalMax, it will then be saved as a contact in AirWallex for future payments.
Correct. And you can decide whoever can actually create these new contacts and new beneficiaries. So you can just restrict everyone from your team to do that, or you can give access to some of your team members so they can raise these beneficiaries.
Yeah. And then there's another one from Nathan. Can you set a payment to be taken from our bank at a future date? As of today, ApprovalMax integration, it can't be at a future date. So once you hit pay, it will go from the AirWallex account. However, if you are making quite often payroll is set for the Friday last day of the month, we are able to future date, but it wouldn't be part of the ApprovalMax integration. So you may be able to get that approved and then go into AirWallex separately and future date the payment.
All right.
Yeah, okay. And I think Alex and I are both happy to catch up after. So I think there'll be an email out from both AirWallex and ApprovalMax, but more than happy to walk you through a demo of AirWallex in itself. Hopefully that a lot of you are familiar with the ApprovalMax software already, but more than happy to set up calls after, because I know it can be a slightly confusing adding a whole nother bit of software to a process. But I think with this integration, it certainly makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much for attending today's webinar. I hope it was useful, and I hope you found some great insights. Thank you, James, for being here. Have you all a great rest of the day, and bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. Appreciate your time. Have a great afternoon.